Are my YouTube ads working? If this is a question you're asking yourself, then this video is for you. I'm going to get into how you can figure out if your ads are working, including some things a lot of people are afraid to talk about, actual numbers. My name is Kyle Sellerud. I'm the founder of VidHorder, a YouTube ads targeting tool to help you build and scale winning YouTube ads campaigns. Check out the link in the description to learn more about VidHorder. In this video, I'm going to be digging into some metrics that you can be looking at to determine whether or not your YouTube ads are working. Now, obviously, the most important thing to pay attention to is whether the ads are making money and how much money the ads are making. Of course, if they are losing money, they are not working. But it doesn't just stop there, and you don't always have this data right away. You want to be able to determine if your ads are working from day one, day two, before you've had a chance to even figure out whether or not they'll make money. That's what I'm going to get into in this video. The first thing to look at is where it all starts, the video ad itself. There are a couple metrics I pay attention to when determining whether or not the videos are working well. The first one is click-through rate. With YouTube ads, your click-through rate is the number of clicks the ad receives divided by the number of impressions. Now this means even if somebody skipped your ad, that's still going to count as an impression, and that's still going to count towards your click-through rate. Usually what you will find is a click-through rate between 1% and 2%. If your click-through rate is above 2%, that's great. That means your ads are probably working really well. If your click-through rate is below 1%, there might be some issues, but not necessarily. There are other things to take into account. And that's why I actually place more importance on another metric related to the video, which is the cost per click. The cost per click tells you on average how much you're paying every time someone clicks on your ad. This is a dollar amount, so it's much more related to your bottom line. If you have a really high cost per click, it might mean it's going to be hard to get your ads working and profitable. If you have a low cost per click, it's obviously going to be much easier. So what is a good cost per click? What I typically look for starting out is a cost per click between $2 and $3. Now, let me tell you and warn you, this is just a starting point. Depending on your audience, your offer, this could vary dramatically. I have some clients paying $4 per click or even more, but they're getting great results. The main reason they're paying higher than average cost per click is because they're in super competitive markets where the traffic is that much more valuable. I have other clients paying as little as 25 cents or less per click, not as competitive of markets, not as valuable of traffic, but those campaigns can also do really well. Cost per click, if you're under $3 a click, you should be doing okay. So when I say $2 to $3 per click, just use that kind of as an initial guide. But if you're paying a lot more or a lot less, you should also consider the market you're targeting and how valuable the traffic is to you. So don't get too wrapped up in the numbers that I'm giving you today, but I want to give you some numbers because I know it is nice to have something to go by. The next thing to look at to figure out if your ads are working is to look at the next step. So after somebody clicks on your ad, what are they going to do? They're going to go opt in to your initial offer. The benchmark I look at for cost per opt-in is $10. Again, this varies greatly from one account to the next. I have clients paying less than $1 per opt-in. I have other clients paying close to $20 per opt-in, but both of those situations can work. It just depends on what your funnel looks like, what your product looks like, how much it costs. So I say $10 an opt-in is the initial guideline that I use, but depending on your funnel, it could be a lot more or a lot less. Directly related to the cost per click and the cost per opt-in is the opt-in rate. A typical opt-in rate for a webinar funnel is going to be between 20 and 30%. And in some cases as high as 40 or 50%. Other types of offers, ebooks and free downloads, you might see opt-in rates much higher than 50%, 60% or above. Take that with a grain of salt. Getting someone to opt in for an ebook is a much lower value action than getting them to opt in for a webinar. Again, I just want to give you some numbers to go by here. Don't think that you need to change your offer so you can get a 60% opt-in rate. You could be doing just fine with a webinar at a 20% opt-in rate. But if your opt-in rate is below 20%, then your ads are not working as well as they could be. It could be the targeting, it could be some other campaign settings that are off, it could be your opt-in page, but if you're below a 20% opt-in rate, you need to get that up. If you are running ads to an application or a call funnel, then the next main metric to look at is your cost per application. And here, what I'm usually going for is applications between $50 and $200. Again, this varies a lot depending on the audience, depending on the offer. Sometimes you'll have a webinar that discourages people from applying so that the people who are applying are higher quality. And that, of course, is going to give you a higher cost per application than if you're encouraging everyone to apply. So a lot of variables here. Generally, you should be getting applications for less than $200 each, maybe as low as $50 each. In some really competitive markets, you may be paying as much as $300 per application. Any more than that, it starts to get really difficult for your numbers to work out in your favor. There are things you can and should be doing to help improve all of these metrics. If your cost per click is too high, you can test new videos. If your opt-in rate is too low, you can test new landing pages. If your cost per application is too high, you can test new webinars and new follow-up and retargeting sequences. But keep in mind that if your targeting is off, none of these numbers are going to work. So before you go recording new videos and changing your opt-in page and redoing your webinar, make sure your targeting looks solid. I've recorded a number of videos on this channel about targeting. So if you're not 100% confident with your targeting, then I'd go check out some of those other videos now. The last thing that I'll talk about in this video is the number one thing that matters when asking the question, are my YouTube ads working? And that is, what is the profitability? Now, if you've made it this far, if the numbers have looked good so far, and you're starting to get some sales, now you can start to figure out if the campaign is working based on the sales you're getting. And I hate to say it, but again, this varies greatly from one offer to the next. So let me ask you a question. Would you rather be running ads with a 2x ROI or with a 10x ROI? I'll give you a second to think about that. Now, what you should be saying is, I need more information. And you'd be right, because what if the 10x ROI campaign is spending $6,000 a month and the 2x ROI campaign is spending $100,000 a month? Now you see where I'm going with this, don't you? It's not just about the ROI and the highest returns you can get. It's about the profitability. Now, of course, you want to be able to spend as much as possible with the highest ROI possible, but these things need to be considered together. Beyond that, you also need to consider the amount of work and the amount of other expenses required at each level of scale that you reach. There's no easy black and white answer here. So, are your YouTube ads working? You tell me, leave a comment below. Let me know the experience you've had with YouTube ads so far. I'm sorry that I couldn't give you an exact formula to look at to determine if your YouTube ads are working. There simply isn't a formula like that exists. But hopefully I've given you enough context in this video to help you figure out if you're on the right track or not. And if you want help with the targeting for your YouTube ads campaigns, be sure to check out VidHorder. I'll leave a link in the description below. Thank you for watching this video. Again, my name is Kyle Sullerud, and I'll see you in the next video.